Good evening, everybody. So nice to see so many smiling faces here today. We have amazing speakers, so let's not waste time and start. So hello, everybody watching us online as well. And today we will be discussing the cost of leadership, because usually we read the books, how to become great leader. We are looking up about the skill set we need to have to be successful. On the other hand, my personal belief is that you cannot be a great leader because you want to make a successful career or earn lots of money, because you need to have a purpose. Because true leadership, it comes with purpose. And then usually people don't count neither energy nor time they put into trying to achieve that purpose. And all of us have our role models, and today about all three speakers, I heard quite a few stories. When I grow up, I want to be Thomas, I want to be Dovile, I want to be Ingrida. On the other hand, no one actually is thinking about the cost behind that leadership, because there is a saying that choose the career you are ready to sacrifice to your life for, because you will. So today I want to hear the personal stories. We will not discuss how to be a great leader, what are the best habits, when to wake up. Maybe we will ask those things, what to eat and so on. But we want to discuss how actually that leadership feels when you are alone. And I would like to invite Dovile.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, I can hear myself.
So before we start with Dovile, we have Slido today. You have an opportunity to ask the question. We will have interview with each of individual, and later on a lightning round. I don't promise to ask all the questions, so please upvote those which you really want to hear the answers for. I choose myself a liberty to choose which questions we will ask our panelists. Dovile, so you are opening today the event, the cost of leadership, and when you hear this phrase, what first comes to your mind?
A lot of things. If I was not prepped, the first thing I think would be that I would start thinking, what do I regret? The cost implies that I had to sacrifice something. So I don't regret anything, actually, but I would think about that. That would be my first thought.
And that's my second question, actually. In your journey, has there ever been a moment when you questioned whether the cost of leadership was worth it?
If I'm perfectly honest, I think I had more of these moments early in my life. I was always thinking, like, am I going the right way when it was getting hard? And nowadays, I think I'm spinning so fast, I have no time to think. So I just have to make sure I carry on. And that's really maybe funny to say that, but it is really true, because there is always some moving part in my life that I cannot left unattended. And when I suddenly feel a bit freer, I take up more load, and then I'm thinking, why did I do that? But again, I think, okay, maybe let's start from the positive side. The cost is worth for something, so what's the profit or what's the price? Yeah, it's a really interesting life, and I cannot imagine what would I do with my time. I would have to really learn something significantly inspiring that would replace the work, and my source of happiness is work, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But it's also a lot of people, for the first maybe thing that I can bring up is that people often assume things about you, that how can you sacrifice time with kids, for example, or what do you talk about with your husband at home, because he's a competitor and extremely busy like I am. And people ask these questions. Even this morning, I was meeting somebody new for potential job, and they're like, oh my God, how do you even survive at home? So I don't know, these assumptions I no longer care, but I used to care. So it would make me doubt these choices that I made.
Actually, I have to thank you because when, like, right now my younger kid is like 1 year old, but on the 5th or 6th month of pregnancy, my decision was to come back to work quite early when my kid is like 5-6 months. I felt that judgment actually from quite a few people. Oh, it's not so early, it's the second child, maybe this time you could stay at home longer, maybe it's your last one, you will not see how your kid will start doing something. And then very timely, I participated in a discussion where you were talking, and then you said like, I am a mother of 3. I came back to work when they were 2 months or so, you'll be good. And actually, for me, just knowing that someone did that 3 times is something reassuring. And I can tell you, yes, it's manageable. But talking about your personal life, so you are a mom of 3. Would you change something now? Like, would you do you miss that time, something missed from your kids? What was your way to deal with your personal thoughts and the pressure from society?
I wouldn't change that. I would still have 3. I think that, I was not very romantic in thinking about family. I always thought it was okay from the age of 30 to 40, I need to have 3 kids. So the first one came when I was 30 and the last one when I was 40. So I was quite lucky to time it like that. It was not so easy, but I was consciously accepting, the burden that comes. And only in the beginning it's difficult, but then, in leadership positions, what you learn is that there's always like lots of moving parts, and you always have to have spare time for like any kind of crisis, or creativity, or strategy. And then with the family, it's exactly the same. So I would say that the first years with the first kids teach you something about being functionable in the hectic environment, which is extremely helpful in real life, especially in work. So I'm always actually encouraging my colleagues to take some time off, and especially men, I say, okay, take 1 or 2 months even, you will become so much more efficient. So I think it's not, and on the other hand, by the way, these things about having these choices, it's not easy to be at home with a kid. I'm, for example, not the kind of person that easily comes up with ideas, to think of a game or whatever. Like, other people are really talented. I like structure, and for me, like, adult life is interesting. So I think that it's also a choice, and I have a lot of respect for people that choose a different kind of life. For me, it's been always different. For me, the main thing is that people are free to choose what they want for themselves. And I'm like fighting for that in the, Leader, which is the Women Association for Leadership. I think that the most annoying thing is that people assume things. Like, for example, we should not assume that a housewife is a failed person. So the same way, like, a career woman is not a failed mother. So I think it's the same thing, applies both ways.
Talking about the association, you are a successful lawyer. So it's quite masculine business, let's say so. So most probably in the room, the ratio would be similar like in tech. So you are already successful, you are established. Why to do something which promotes women, like, okay, less represented gender quotas, which like, why to push the policies where all your colleagues could cringe and actually don't really like you for that?
I know it's a good question. I was asking myself when I started. It was always something that I was passionate about, and people in the room here, I am sure every one of you is passionate about something. So, one other odd example would be that I was always passionate about, like, outplaced graffiti being not in the right place, like in the old town, or some sort of angry slogans in really public places. So we all have these kind of inside us. We burn with some ideas. So for me, it was always the contrast, especially when I was very young as a professional, the contrast of how young women were treated here and at that time, Western business society was shocking. And I was always like, okay, we need to change something about it. So that was my
What's shocking
passion.
about that?
Shocking about being too familiar and too easygoing and like sexist. Not necessarily brutally, obviously, but always there was something. And I was not suffering. Was never afraid of anything. But for me, it was, I think, like I felt the passion to like make people aware that it's not okay for most of the women. So that's how it started for me. And then first I was not doing much about it, but then when I got into like really interesting international circles, I realized this was a topic everywhere, even in the countries that I thought had no problems. And so I decided to sort of bring it back home. And I thought about the situation where, okay, like 9 out of 10 people bringing M&A deals to my, portfolio are men, usually. So what would they think? And then I somehow decided that I'll just take my chances. And I think that's one of the things that maybe decides whether a person has any kind of leadership ability or not. I don't think you can calculate everything. I don't think that, Ingrida was counting on, being so popular. She just did the job well. And I think, I really actually, don't like the people that go for the title, go for the power, but not for, the idea that they believe in. I really think that if you believe in the idea, okay, you will lose maybe 10% of the people that believe extremely opposite ideas. But the same way you can lose 10% of the people that just don't like your face. It's not a big risk if you calculate it. But in general, I was not very conscious about it when I started this feminist ideology coming forward.
So, Quotas. Don't you think that you're successful despite everything? And quite few women make it to the top. Don't you think that those who are successful, they will make it anyways? And then Quotas and all the policy which you are pushing, you are just making then the place for weaker women.
I know, exactly. That's the point. I think that the biggest opponents of quotas are successful women, actually. If you ask them, if I was really building a career as an independent board member, for me, wow, this would be really bad to have, competition coming from all directions. I'm not, so that's not, but I think the idea of quotas is really discrediting the people benefiting from the quotas, and still it gets it going, the change going, and that's supported by statistics of the countries that had quotas. And even when they abolish quotas, because quotas are actually only legal if they are temporary, so for the sake of me being a lawyer, I have to say that it's a temporary measure, so it cannot last forever. So when the quotas expire, usually the trend stays, because it's here in the room again, if you think about, you give people in this room some opportunity after some time. Comparing to any other group, you will see that the opportunity changed everybody, and then they have become more successful, better leaders at whatever they do. So I think the same thing with quotas. If you, all of us, you dare something, you get out of your comfort zone. First, you're afraid, you tremble, you really doubt yourself, and then works out. Second time, it's okay, routine. So it's something that I don't think anybody has to take personally, whether it benefits me or not. And for the business owners that are afraid of it, I always say when we are discussing this with some business owners, I am sure that in your organization you can think of one woman to promote. I mean, you certainly could try. If you fail, you replace her with another woman. You're not stuck with somebody that is weak, not suitable for the role. So I think, yeah, your question is very good. It's a price that you have to pay.
So, Dovile, leaders are born or made?
I think a lot of leaders are made by circumstances. I think that people that are born to, again, as I said earlier, I don't think it's okay if people are just aiming for the job, for the title. I think it's okay to want more, but want something maybe ideological rather than vertical career. So people are, again, I'm not a psychologist and I don't know whether, genetics or social upbringing means more for people having beliefs. I think generally speaking, people are made by hardship or much love or whatever. Different backgrounds produce great results sometimes, and you cannot say that there is one recipe. But definitely, it is. People maybe are born with a sense that a lot of us are faced with a circumstance, but we are not all coping with them equally well. And I think it's okay. Like I also have I could think of some example what came my way and where I failed because it was not something that I could deal with. So
when people look at you or follow you on social media, it looks like everything just comes to you so easy, like you look good, you are athletic, you're always elegant, nicely speaking, all the time very structured. Do you ever lose your temper, shout or cry? Like, are you human or are you lawyer?
I'm happy my kids are not in the room. I was thinking of maybe inviting my daughter, but she's busy writing, so no time to do seminars of any other topic. I do. I actually, at work, sometimes I lose myself and then I apologize. I have some people from the office here. And I think one of the things that maybe I'm born with, I'm a fourth kid in the family, so nobody cared about what I feel, because they were tired, parents were tired, siblings were busy. So I was the one that, okay, if I get too fussy, I'm alone. So I learned this, ability to quickly understand that I did something really messy. So I come back and apologize and I try to fix it. So I know it's annoying sometimes. Some people take longer to process and they're like, oh, you're in my face again. But I do. And I think that actually I'm very, I've recently done a podcast and I said, and a lot of people remind me that I said that like uncontrolled emotions, if you show them, it's your your weakness basically. It's a very, very big weakness. And I still believe that, but just to correct myself a bit and not to seem too technical, I think that you want to show emotions most of the time. And I want to show that I'm not satisfied. It's just that it has to be respectful. Or I want to show that it really, really pisses me, like, I don't know, Putin pisses me off, yeah? So I'm not going to pretend that it's okay to do what he does, yeah? So you have to show emotion, but just you have to also know when to control it. And I think that's an important ability for leaders to be able to process that.
Do you believe that some people just get lucky and get where they are?
No.
So what was the hardest lesson leadership told you, something you didn't expect but had to learn in the hard way?
I have to think. I haven't had this question in advance. I think one thing that it's a general feeling, but when we started our firm 7 years ago, I thought I was starting it with peers, and I did. But after a few months, you keep going and going, and I realized that everybody, even my peers, were looking up to me for some inspiration. And then I suddenly felt, okay, this is actually my job, to be the only one who has to provide inspiration to everybody and not get it back and not ask it back. And I think that's a big price to pay. Of course, then you, as an individual, you have a lot of other ways to complete yourself and to feel okay and to be inspired. But I started seeking inspiration elsewhere, and I sort of realized that it is extremely important to do that part of my job. So I think that I learned the hard way, that I realized it on the job. Nobody told me before.
At my home, I think that the hardest is for my husband, because sometimes I come home and I say, I have to be smart and balanced at work. I have to be smart and balanced with kids. Somewhere, can I just get crazy? Does it happen to you? Where is your place to actually show those emotions and be unbalanced and be irrational and rage, and how you keep yourself well balanced?
I don't have one recipe, but I do care about well-being. It's like a holistic thing. I'm not into any kind of ideology. There's a lot of them around. But I try to balance the time that I'm on intense work. So, like, I know that my normal functionality is 5 days, 10 hours, intense. I can do email, I can do a call, at night or on the weekend, but I cannot be intensely organized all the other time. So I try to balance my time, and then I plan it rigorously. And then the other thing is that I need 2 months in the year without intense travel. So I started living and working from Palanga in the summer. I commute if I need to go to the office 1 day a week, but with that remote working, I work actually less, 7-8 hours, not 10, because I don't need to do the commute, and it's also remote, so there are less meetings with transfer times, and these kind of small things. And then, okay, if I am having a really intense week, I book myself into a nice spa for 2 hours, but these 2 hours I try to enjoy. And so this becomes like a task to be balanced. And how oddly it sounds, yeah, and then when I'm in Palanga, I also have rules. So, I don't use the car. I eat food only from the market, so it has to be good quality, simple, natural food. And I do sports, like exercise every day, which I don't do in Vilnius. I'm on business trips, I eat junk, and I cannot, do this all year. But these 2 months, I give myself this. So these are things that everybody has maybe to discover about themselves. And I think that's the only way to keep going. You're not getting younger, you're not getting more inspired. Everything is repetitive, and then of course there's the other side. Challenging myself into new, difficult things inspires me. So I get more hardship in a way, but then it's new, and something new is always amazing. So I took on it sounds a bit funny, I'm nowhere near having learned, but I started kite surfing this year. I was always sitting on the beach in Palanga like this kind of office girl, and I thought these people are superhumans. And then because I have kids, and then I wanted to bond with my daughters, and one of my daughters doesn't really want to be in warm climate, but she said, well, if we did kite surfing, maybe I would go. What do you think I did? I booked us on a trip, 3 of us girls, my 2 daughters and me, and I had to share the room with the daughter that is not very
small room.
Very small room, very, very cheap trip, very, very basic, with amazing crowd. So, surfing, but I haven't been in that. And then they made sure that I can actually surf 10 meters after the 6 days. You have no idea how proud I am. So,
I know.
So this is the kind of, balance that I'm trying to strike.
Now after a bit more sessions in kite surfing, I was like, how odd it sounds when someone gets from the water and say 7 meters.
I know. Yeah, 7 is a lot.
That's the start. If you could write a letter to younger self before you took your first leadership role, what you would tell the young Dovile?
I think that it's very difficult. I think that I would advise her to maybe act sooner on every hinge and passion. Time is flying, and I think I was I was always very structured and organized and loyal, and I was raised with faith and tradition, and for me this was difficult. I still actually really, really respect that, but difficult to get out of this frame where you need to keep trying. So don't keep trying if you feel that it's not going to go anywhere. So I think maybe I could have saved myself, 10 years to have this more exciting stuff earlier. But I don't regret anything. Everything I did, I learned a lot from it. So.
You look very rational. So what is your mantra, what you're talking to yourself in your head in the time of crisis, which you cannot control at all?
Sometimes it helps to cry to the point of being tired. And then I want to sleep. And then in the morning, it's all different.
I heard you talking that you can be a good leader in the criminal world and a good leader in the church. So who is a good leader to you, Dovile?
And I would still, say that I think that sometimes if you are open-minded and tolerant, and the more I live, the more I respect tolerant people, you can recognize amazing things among people that you naturally don't think would have anything to do with you, yeah? And it doesn't mean that they are good people, but they have amazing features, yeah? So these different types of leaders, I think it is always unfortunate when you have talented people doing the wrong thing. And so the wrong thing, I mean like hurting somebody or like hurting the society. But if you just take out their features, they could be good leaders. But to me, what is good leader? I think that a good leader is somebody that doesn't think he or she is a good leader. They have to just be good at what they do, at what they undertook. I think anyway, I like this kind of somebody thinking that they are in leadership. I think it's always already sort of, how to put it, there's nothing else. I mean, I think people should think of what I could do, and leadership is doing something. So you still have to do something in the future.
What's your why, which is waking up you every day and making do what you do?
The easy answer is the plan. I wake up and look at the calendar. Oh my God, I need to accomplish the day.
Why the plan is made? What for? What's your mission?
My mission. I actually do have some midterm, long-term goals. I think I kind of missed the time in my life where I didn't have to plan ahead a bit more than like short term. And the plan is not about me. I have a plan about like the organizations, the people that I have to deal with. And it takes time to groom people, to build organizations. So I am committed. And when people ask me sometimes, what about this or that opportunity? I'm always answering, actually, I'm committed for 2 years. But it's more or less what it is. So for me, I would say maybe it's responsibility, but then I take on responsibilities which I believe are, meaningful. So it's not romantic. It's the calendar and then the midterm plan.
What's the cost you would never pay?
I mean, the family, the health, I would not give up that for anything.
That being said, thank you, Dovile.
Thank you.
And I want to invite Thomas, our next leader.
Hello.
So Thomas, a while ago you came to Lithuania, to the country. I don't know if you have ever visited before.
No, I was never been here.
Yeah, and you joined the startup. No one in Lithuania believed, I think. And you helped Vinted to survive. That was probably the right wording. And what was your personal why? Like to leave everything behind to some kind of country, to the company which maybe will survive, maybe not?
Yeah, so I think I just was part of a company that we built and sold twice after each other. And I was in New York and I felt a little bit disappointed about that. So financially it was all okay, but it also felt just a little bit like, okay, richer people got rich and we sold the company, and yeah, I don't know, something didn't felt amazing. And during that process as well, over my the years that I worked there before, I saw a couple of times, I saw founders make mistakes and really suffer from it, and mentally also go under. So when I got on a Zoom call with Mantas and Justus, I actually saw a lot of pain. And I thought, like, these are actually great guys. They told me their stories, how they grew up in Lithuania, Soviet Union failed, and they, prospered in that environment, and it was a tough environment. So I saw their, just, how bright they were, how motivated they are, but I also saw their pain. And then I thought, like, you know what? these are brilliant people. Maybe I can help them. I will definitely learn something about it. And Lithuania, I think it's one of those Baltic countries. I don't know exactly which one of it. Will be quite interesting. So I said, you know what? I feel like I want to help you guys. I'll come over for 5 weeks, write me a good consulting fee that makes it worth it, and then let me see if I can work with you guys. And so I think the initial step to come was like I wanted to help them. I was interested. It sounded a bit adventurous, Lithuania, like, okay, let's do this. But then when I came and I had like a plan on how to do this, there were 2 very distinct moments that very much motivated me. It was one moment that I presented the whole plan, and I sat with Mantas and Justus, and I proposed it to them. They asked me some questions, and they said, like, okay, let's do it. And I felt, in that moment, I felt scared, because my plan was very radical. It was like firing half of the people, closing offices, and then spend a lot of money on television after we changed the proposition. And I felt scared, because I thought, oh my God, these people are going to bet this whole company on my PowerPoint presentation. I was like, okay, I better now back this up and help you guys. So I said, like, okay, I'm going to stay. You don't have to pay me a salary, pay my Airbnb and my food, and I'll help you set it up. And they were like, okay, that's cool, thanks. And then the second moment was I remember I was giving then an all hands to the company. And I had to explain, like, look, we have fired now half of the people. We're closing these offices. We're going to do this. And the next 6 months to 9 months are going to be very tough, and there's a chance that we're not going to make it. But I really hope that you're going to stay to help and try this. And I thought, like, okay, half of the people are going to walk out, and let's see. And then vast majority of the people stayed, and people worked. I felt that people really wanted to fight for this. And I really felt really at home in that vibe. I really felt like, wow, we're going to fight together for this, and maybe it's going to work, and if we work really hard, it might work. And it felt very exciting, and I really wanted to stay to see if this is going to work. So it was, I don't know, I was very inspired by the people that were there and by what the team wanted to do, and therefore I felt like it is really nice to stay. And I also felt very welcome. Well, not by everybody, because I got also kicked out of Ubers because people knew it was me who fired so many people, and like there were also people who thought like I was hired by competition to kill the company, because all that kind of stuff. But I felt very welcome, and it felt exciting.
First, you wanted to make Vinted successful. Then you say, let's win secondhand fashion. Then, okay, not really only fashion, let's win all secondhand. And now I hear you talking, let's make Europe great again. So you constantly are actually raising that, like, finish line is more and more far away. How do you feel with that personally? Because I think that, the sense of achievement is constantly like, what's good enough? The bar is raising dramatically.
Yeah, so I think it's just very human what happens. It's kind of like you're playing Mario Bros on your Nintendo and you win a level, you want to win the next level. That is what is happening here. Personally, I'm not like an incredibly visionary leader. I think you'll never hear me talk about in like the 2 decades, we're going to change this, we're going to do that. I usually have a plan for a couple of years, and I'm really excited about, making that and building that. And then I feel very cool if things are working, and I feel shit if it doesn't, and then we're going to try to fix it. So what has been happening is that we constantly work towards goals that are, in the short term, it looks like a nice challenge, but also kind of looks achievable, and it kind of works in a plan to build something bigger. And what happened is that, as you become more successful with your company, you start to think about other things that you want to do, expanding to other countries, other categories, as you say. And at a certain point in time, you are comfortable yourself, and you start to think about, how can I make myself useful to others outside of creating wealth with the company and creating jobs. So you start to think about, how can we be useful for Europe? How can we help Lithuania with certain things? So you'll see. And now when I think about this, I actually just ordered a lot of books. I will let them here and people can take them. And it's about, like, at a certain point in time, you start to try to have impact also on the environment around you. And I think it comes from trying to be useful and trying to feel that when you're useful, you're valued by others. I think it's something like that. You just wanna do something useful.
I haven't met a lot of inspirational CEOs or heard about them, but those who work in Vinted, like truly many people here treat you as inspiration and someone they are looking up for. How you would yourself describe your leadership style? How you make it?
First of all, I get very uncomfortable being
That's
called
my
out
job,
like that.
make you uncomfortable,
Yes.
Thomas.
So I need to recover from that first. Look, I think a lot of how I am as a person and thus how I am as a leader is ingrained from how I'm being raised by my parents. So my mother was a nurse, my dad was a scientist, and I grew up in a tiny village, 5,000 people, and I had a brother and a sister. I was the oldest one. And within my family, it was very clear. You needed to be honest and transparent. So it was like if you lied about something, then you really got spanked. It was very clear that you needed to be useful. So you needed to help out with stuff, clean the dishes, do a little bit of work in the garden. We all had like little tasks, nothing compared to probably the work you guys had to do. Like it was very cute. But it instilled values around transparency, about working hard, about being useful, and being there for others. And I think that is, in many ways, how I lead today. Like, I try to treat people how I want to be treated myself. I try to be useful for my team and for the company. I try to be very transparent and honest about what we're doing, also because that's how I really like to be treated. I remember very specifically, like at a certain point in time, our company got bought by a very large company, and then I was a manager in that company, and then I got explained about how I should sell the stock option package to people, and I realized this stock option package, it's practically fake. It's like phantom options, and like this. So I started saying like it's ridiculous, and I'm not gonna. How can I ever tell this to people? This is dishonest, and da 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 da. And so I had a speech like that. So I really felt bad about that, and thus I would never want to do that to any people here. So I try to treat people how I want to be treated myself. I'm honest to them. I'm approachable. I don't like arrogant people, so I'm not arrogant myself. And when you do that, you get that back. And I'm not perfect. And sometimes I get angry, and sometimes I'm scared, and I'm nervous. But I try to do my best. Everybody does that. Some of us fail sometimes in that, and we say sorry. And I don't know. That's it.
Those who work with you see that you never eat alone. So basically, and you will join the random person and ask, how are you during the Vinted Fest as well. You'll hang with any people. Everybody wants a bit of your attention. Come on, let's tell it. Let's make it more uncomfortable. So how do you, and you share a lot of actually personal, very personal details of your life, like why you may be more vulnerable or more stressed recently. Yeah. Where do you put the boundary? What's personal, what's not, and do you ever want to hide from people?
Yeah, so I think in this behavior, there's a selfish component as well. Like, I want to be part of a group. Like, I think like any human being, we want to be part of a group of friends, a team, and I don't want to be left outside. So when I'm having lunch, I would love to have lunch with somebody. And then I like to have a fun conversation, because then I feel socially satisfied, and I learned something, and I had a cool conversation, and it's nice. So that's why that behavior is there. What was the second?
Do you want ever to hide from people, run away and be alone, and nobody?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are moments when things are tough. Like, so there are very much those moments as well. And then, you come home, you're tired. And you just want to lay on like what you said, lay on the couch and watch Netflix and sleep and wish you feel better tomorrow.
She said cry.
Yeah, crying. Well, yeah. Crying. I cry at other moments. But I think the emotional openness comes from wanting to really connect with people. When I work with people, I want to connect with people because I want to feel that we're doing something together. So when you look at, for example, my team, there are many people that I worked with for many, many years, and I have very intimate relationships with those people. Those are friends, like Mindogas. We work together now almost for 10 years. Been at his wedding, I've been at funeral of his dad. I mean, and we stand hugging each other of happiness, and we hold each other's hands crying. And to me, real relationships make life colorful and interesting. And I mean, there's nothing much more to life than doing things together. Like, I think we're very social beings as humans, and I don't want to compromise on that. So, I mean, there are a lot of books that tell, like, you shouldn't be friends with the people that you work with. Well, I don't agree. Yes, it's harder, because the moment I have a tough conversation with Mindogas, it's tough, because I care for the guy, and I feel shit if he feels shit about something that I'm telling him. But I rather have that and feel that that is something difficult that I have to deal with than that I have a very transactional relationship and that it's kind of cold and I don't feel I'm doing anything together. I think doing things together is just really nice. One of the coolest things when I was a kid was, like, I was part of a hockey team. And together with the hockey team, we were able to, for several years, promote ourselves up in different leagues. And we had all these battles and wins and loses. And that still to the day that if I meet these guys, I feel very connected because we did that together. And there is something within doing things together that grows and bond between people that is valuable to us. And I think, and even recently I read that studies show that one of the key predictors of, like, a long and happy life is whether you have friends and whether you have a community around you. So having a good bond with your family and having a couple of good friends and having nice relationships at work that you appreciate. You don't have to be friends with everybody, obviously, but I think it's valuable and it's useful and it's healthy, and that's why I want that.
Do you believe that work-life balance is realistic to leaders who are at all needed? And how do you protect your personal boundaries?
So when I heard you about your agenda and your balance, I was like, oh, I'm jealous because, like, to me, it on a high level, yes, but on a day-to-day, I think it can also be very toxic to think that, like, everything needs to be balanced. That every day you have, like, these little zen moments and these relaxed moments, and you have intense moments. Like, I go through weeks that are very painful, where I barely sleep and where I just have to push through because otherwise it's going to be a very, very, very big problem. These weeks are there, and some very bad moments are months, and you have to do it at that point in time. But on a higher level, there need to be moments where you don't work, let's say, nonstop, and where you leave early and you work like 5 hours that day, and you go surfing afterwards, and you have a great time, and you spend time with friends. So I think don't be fooled, but that every day needs to be in balance, because not every day is going to be in balance. Some days are shit, and sometimes you feel shit, and sometimes you have to work hard, but then there are other weeks where you can relax a little bit more, you can recover yourself, and you can get over it. Like, because this is one of these things, like, sometimes you see on social media or whatever media, you see these perfect pictures of people who have everything under control. Like, and that's not reality. Like, it's not reality. Like, many of the CEOs I meet, we're just trying to get through the day, trying to get through the week, and time to time we find peace of mind and we relax and we hold back. And I think that is, so don't get fooled by it, but protect yourself to not be consumed by it. Like, there are moments you need to go like 100%, and there are moments where you can lean back to recover, but don't expect that to be in every day a balanced, you start with a perfectly fine coffee and you end with some quinoa seeds, and it doesn't exist. And I haven't met it yet.
Have you ever came back home with 100 urgent things to do, turned off work computer and played Fortnite for 4 hours?
Yes. Yes, that happened. And even a funny anecdote was, like, there was this moment that was very intense, and then I worked really hard, and then but then I also was done with it, and I got really hooked on Assassin's Creed because the new Assassin's Creed came out. And then at a certain point in time, Modestus came to me and he's like, Thomas, you look horrible, man. Like, you got to stop working the night. I'm like, Okay, don't tell anybody else, but new Assassin's Creed is out, and I mean, it happens. Like, come on, we're all human. Sorry.
Thomas, therapists are saying that the more extreme sports you choose, the worse is your mental condition.
The worst?
The worst, yes. Oh. Because the more adrenaline you need to switch off your brain, that means that the more tired your brains are. And you're known for, I don't know, most probably all kind of extreme sports. So what's next? How you will balance your mindfulness?
I actually, when you sent that question, I actually read it wrong. I thought that it meant people who do extreme sports can really then do well. Okay, so to me, I wrote down an answer that's the opposite. So to me, it works the opposite. So what I really enjoy, is I really enjoy these sports. And I've been doing it since I was like 10 years old. I've been doing all this kind of stuff, the skating, the surfing. And it gives me an enormous grounding and peace of mind. So what it does is that if you are in a situation that if you don't pay 100% attention or don't fully focus, you're going to hurt yourself. You have to 100% focus. You cannot think about like these things that people said at the office or what you're afraid of. You have to focus on that handrail because otherwise that handrail is going to be in your crutch. You have to make sure you steer your kite right because otherwise it's going to loop and you're going to really hurt yourself. And I think those moments create full focus on something that you're physically doing. And afterwards, I always feel incredibly relaxed. So one of the best things to do for me is going wakeboarding after a day or going surfing after a day because I have these moments that connect. And the best thing is even to do it together with a buddy because in Autocracy sometimes I go with Jonas and then you come off the water together, you share that feeling of like relaxedness and emptiness and it's incredible. So to me, it is really a refuge to go to relax. And I just really feel great afterwards. So yeah, I don't know.
That's how I started wakeboarding. You know, I shared with a friend that, you know, I'm running, I'm thinking about job. I'm cycling, I'm thinking about job. And they say, start wakeboarding.
Yeah.
After the first lap, I understood what they are talking about.
Yeah, so it's really something that focus brings you completely to. It's almost like meditation, I think. I think that is actually the thing what it is. It's close to meditation. And running, actually, I like it a lot also because it's just, you get like energy out of your body, your shoulders drop. Those things really help. So actually, the thing that I've learned early on in my career is that balancing these kind of hard work moments with sports really works well. If there's any advice I can give you, it's like don't switch on Netflix, but like go for a run, go wakeboarding, because afterwards you'll feel better and you'll sleep better. And I don't know, for me that works the best. Like, I'm not a fan of all these like almost religious talks about rhythms in your life and healthy food and whatever. But I think sports has really helped me a lot.
Let's discuss some leadership rules. So there is a statement that give all the credit to the team, take all the blame. Do you do that?
If you give all the credit to the team, it's a bit fake, because so I think these things there's something in that, right? So I think you need to give credit to people who deserve it, very, very much. But if you always give credit to everybody in the team, that is fake. And then the credit that you give has no value. It has been inflated. So I think it is very important to give credit to those who deserve it, and also be very clear about those who made mistakes, because then your credit really means something. And when there are mistakes, because I think another question you had was around celebrating failures, I think you need to be very careful with that, because it's not success to have failure. But you shouldn't punish failure. You should kind of welcome failure in a safe environment where you say like, okay, this was bad. Okay, bad.
Okay,
really
so
bad.
Next myth, celebrate failures.
Yeah, so you can say like, I think you shouldn't celebrate it, because if you're going to celebrate every failure, then the company fails, and then it's not like we're not living in a Disney movie. So what you need to do is you need to say, like, okay, it was okay that we failed. And what have we learned from this failure? And then it is really good to be proud about what we've learned about it and make people comfortable that they just lost the company $1 million, but at least we learned it. It's all right, let's move on, and next time we'll do better. And I think that is just a very honest way of dealing with it, because nobody's happy with the failure. Let's not pretend we're happy with the failure, but let's be very honest about it. Look, you live in a safe place here. If you learn from this, we're going to move on, and we're going to be fine, all of us. And we learn, and the next thing will be success, and then we're going to celebrate extra hard about the success. I think it's important to not punish, be honest about it, celebrate when things really needs to be celebrated, but also be honest about when it's a fuck up. Like, this is shit. Let's be calm, learn from it, and move on, and we go for the next.
There is a saying as well that you need, when you are not a leader yet, you need to say yes to everything. Once you become a leader, you need to say no. So how do you determine when your own ownership or accountability becomes excessive and when you say no?
I would not suggest in any situation in life to say always yes. I think, and also early on in your career, you should not always say yes to things. What I think that probably that tries to say is that you should be willing to take risks and take on stuff. I think one of the key things that made me successful is that in my first job, everybody called me a golden retriever because I was always up for everything. Like, okay, let's do this. And like non-critical, yes, let's go. Okay, big problem here, yeah, let's go. And I think that is like positive because you insert yourself in all kinds of situations and you learn a lot from it, but you always need to have boundaries where you say like, okay, I'm not going to do this because this is harmful or like I don't feel comfortable with this. That is okay as well. But I think it's very good to be open to try all kinds of things, especially early in your career. Be up to step into big messes. But you know, you need to prioritize as well and say no to things. And as a leader, when you're obviously, I get a lot of proposals, and to a lot of proposals, I have to say not good enough, because you know the bar ends with me. I need to make sure that the quality is high. So yeah, there's a lot of no saying, but also in my position, like if I wouldn't go into new things, we would still be a marketplace app for fashion. And now we are a shipping company. Now we are a payment company. Now we are in multiple categories. So I also need to still say yes to stuff. Otherwise, we're like gonna be a sad little company.
In one interview with one of the CEO, I heard that such statement that the higher you go in the company, you need to understand that you're either up or out. So there is no way up for you. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think every quarter my head is on the line. That is the reality.
How you deal with that stress?
How I deal with those things is that I always try to think about what is the worst case scenario. If this goes wrong, what would that then mean? And I try to think of what is then wrong and try to think of something that's really, really bad. So every board meeting I prepare for being fired, let's say in that way. But when you do that, when you say like, okay, if this happens, then the consequences are the following. I always kind of mentally go through that situation and try to think of then what I'm going to do then. And actually, when you do that, you kind of think yourself through what then the scenario is, this and that, and you will see that you will get reasonably calm about that. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're not going to die, you're not going to lose everything, you just lose your job, or this project goes wrong and we lose a lot of money, and then from there we'll do other things. And so I think thinking through the pain that you possibly can have in a calm way helps you to prepare for that pain and helps you to make, let's say, your backup plan. And that is like how I build my strategies for this company, how I don't know, think about life. I always try to think, okay, it's because it's always very obvious how it looks when it's going to go well. Then it's going to be everything clapping, it's going to be nice, and it's going to be high five, and let's move on, and everybody's going to be rich. But like, it's very important to think about what's going to happen if it doesn't go well, and how you're going to feel then and how you're going to react then. Because it only goes well a few times, and many times it goes wrong. And so it's very important how you recover in these wrong situations. And mentally it helps to think that through, because then you just calmly, after you've done that, you'll just way more calmly go into those riskier situations.
Leadership should be quite autocratic in times of crisis. Do you agree with this statement?
I actually think leadership should be autocratic at every point in time. And let me explain this. If Vinted was a democracy, and we would have asked everybody, do you think it's a great idea to fire half of the company? Like, I bet your ass that everybody would have said, like, no, that's not a good idea. So leadership is about taking many hard decisions that are sometimes not favorable. So you need to have this autocratic, full responsibility for the decisions that you make. And so the people who are making decisions, having full responsibilities for the decisions that they take, and that means that they're all protected to make hard decisions if needed. And if we do things democratically, that's not gonna work well. Democracy is fantastic when you're running a country. Like, I'm a big fan of democracy.
I will ask her again if it's fantastic.
But if we're gonna vote about how we're gonna run our lunch menu here, like, we'll have caviar and champagne in 5 weeks. I don't think that that's a good idea, even though most people would really enjoy that. So I think there is an autocratic element always to it, and we need to be honest about it as well. Like, we have people in place to be leaders to make these decisions. And those are hard decisions time to time, not favorable decisions of the group, but it protects the group in the end. Like, the hardest decisions that I made was to protect that we continue to go on. And if you need to be ready to do that as a leader, you need to step out of that sadness of that moment that you're going to disappoint somebody or disappoint a group of people to protect the whole. And with democracy, the weakness of democracy is that people can vote themselves shit that is very bad in the long term. And we see that all around the world right now happening. And I think that is, we should be very happy that companies are not run democratically, even though I'm very happy our country is run democratically. Yeah, different style, different place.
There is a saying that it's quite lonely on the top. Is it, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, so it's lonely. Yeah, you try to. Yeah, how do you deal with that? Yeah, I think this is one of the hardest parts of it, because even though I have great relationships with all the people in my team, and I know that these guys, I love them, and these girls, we love each other for who we are, but in the end, I'm their boss. So they're also really nice to me because I'm their boss, and they're showing their best face, and they always be like, okay, Thomas is in the room, let's get this going. So I also know that this is not like the same as my friends who I know since I'm 11 years old. And I spend very little time with actually my friends from the Netherlands and my family. So it's that is lonely. How do you deal with it? I think is to appreciate what you got and making the best out of it. Like, I don't know, it's lonely. Like, this is the thing, right? We tend to celebrate leadership and being in these positions, but also one of the things, like, I think, don't fool yourself about what it as well is, because I look with a lot of envy at great contributors who are working in engineering or data science. I'm actually educated as a very analytical person, and I learned how to program, and I was building my first startup myself. And there is a lot of joy in being a very qualified, well-contributing person who's just building stuff and does not have to take these hard decisions and truly lives in a group of peers instead of being squeezed in between a board of investors and your own executive team while your family lives in another country.
What is the price you would never pay?
I would never want to hurt the people closest to me, so my family and my close friends. I would never want to hurt them. Practically hurting people, I think that's like, and the closest people, that's a price I don't want to pay. I'm very willing to take myself pain. It's okay because there's this cycle of taking pain and feeling relief, and I to a certain absurd level, I got addicted to it, I even think. But like, I would not, like, if my girlfriend is pregnant now, and if she would be hurt, like, no, that's like, if that's in threat, that would be, or my family, like, or anybody I'm closely working with now, like, I don't want to hurt other people. Just in general, I think we had a moment in Vinted during COVID where we had to make a decision. So COVID was brand new. It was like the newest thing on the block, and we didn't understand it well. Governments didn't understand it well. And it was not clear if the packages that we ship from locker to locker could infect people. So I still remember we were sitting in our pajamas behind our Zooms, and we had to make a call, like, okay, are we going to continue shipping items, or are we going to stop shipping items? And we said, like, okay, let's then stop shipping items, take the risk, because we don't want to hurt people. And we were in a very uncertain situation for a few weeks if we could continue and if it would come out. And I think that is clearly where we showed that we, talk the talk, walk the walk. I think it's you draw the line where you hurt people, and it actually doesn't matter if it's, because I was talking about my closest people, but it actually doesn't matter. Like, I would also feel horrific if we would hurt a lot of people in a way. So I think that's where you draw the line. Yeah, I think so. I don't know exactly. I didn't really think this through, but I guess that's where it starts. There's probably a lot of other stuff where I draw the line, but.
Last question: what makes you then the most happy? Thinking about being a leader.
What makes me the most happy? I just really like it when a plan works. I just like it's. Do you know, like, the A-Team where you had this guy? I think it was called Hannibal or something. Like, the A-Team for, I'm very old, 40 years old. It had like a black van, and they had like a gang of guys, and they were always like making a plan to stop the bad guys. And the guy would always say, "I love it when a plan comes together." And for some kind of reason, whenever something works out, you have that great feeling. You see people being proud about that stuff is working, and you're like, "Oh wow, it actually worked!" And that feeling of like getting something done, and that feeling of victory together, I think is the nicest thing. And I don't know if that's as a leader, but just being part of a team, it's really cool. And that's, I think, what it is. Like, you try something, you build something, you're proud of what you're building, and you see that's working, and that's like the addictive part, I think. Like, that's really cool.
And now I will invite Ingrida and ask, what about when new government comes?
Yes, I'm very curious.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Ingrida.
Thank you for inviting.
Today the event is called The Cost of Leadership, and you are most probably the most recognizable face, at least in this audience. I don't think that it often happens to you that somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, what's your name and what are you doing in life?" Do you remember the last time it happened?
That was long ago, very long ago. But some 20 years ago, when I was already a little bit known to at least part of the society, I was flying on a plane, and a guy who was sitting next to me, he was looking at me and was saying, "Where have I seen you?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "But I've seen you somewhere, maybe." And then he, for some reason, decided that I'm the host of TV shows about criminal cases. And he was continuing and telling me what stories he knows, that he can provide content for my TV show and stuff. So I didn't want to disappoint the guy. And that was the case when somebody sort of recognizes your face but doesn't know how to relate it. Of course, now it's not that anymore, because usually when we have quite a lot of excursion of kids in the parliament who are like 5th grade, 4th grade, like, you know, kids who should not be watching TV. When I would pass, they would run after and say, "Shimonita!" and this is quite puzzling for me, because I don't know where do they get my name from?
From parents.
Well, yeah, but I mean, kids don't watch TV. I mean, where do they see me? This I don't know. TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
Other days you wish you could switch places with any random person in the crowd and not to be recognizable, not to be known?
Well, I had this plan that when I finish office, I will grow my hair. I will get back to the original color. I will put on glasses, like dark glasses, or will take away the glasses, and then nobody will recognize me. And then I thought, but I should keep silent then, because everybody recognized me from my voice. And the funny thing was about this, when we had this first Ukrainian refugees coming, and I was volunteering in the center, calling to people to get lodging for guys who just arrived. And I was calling to random people, asking, I saw your sort of apartment that was registered on this special platform, and I'm looking for accommodation for a pair or for mom with 2 kids or whomever. And they were like listening for a second and then saying, "Is this Ingrida calling?" That was quite funny. So I know that I have no chance, basically, because then I should cut my throat, and maybe then that will work.
But like, I remember even the story how you recently like went to the concert and it was like discussing, do you drink alcohol or non-alcohol beer?
Oh,
and
this
even,
Guns
like,
N' Roses thing?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, that was a regular beer. I can tell, because I had a situation. I was on presidential campaign, I think in 2018, when I was in Andrius Tapinas show, and I was having a glass of non-alcoholic beer, but my picture of this glass still goes around all the Facebooks and whatever, and I cannot explain to anyone that was a non-alcoholic beer, so then I decided I will not do that anymore.
But jokes aside, so people not just recognize you, but actually they have strong opinion about you. How do you feel when it's actually, even if you get elected and you are in the leadership role and you can semi-autonomously drive your agenda, and then you know that in Lithuania it's a great likelihood that most probably next election it will be another government, and they
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So,
at least so far.
and they will do exactly the opposite of what you plan to do. How do you find your why behind that?
Well, I think they will tell that they would do 100% opposite of what you do. But then if that would be true, then Lithuania would never, ever be where it is now. I mean, because you will always hear that. I mean, we will come, we will change everything. I mean, those bad things, we will do good things. But then when you see what actually happens, I mean, some things change, some maybe not wise. Then we have some crises or something. But on a big picture, because this is what's really important, if you sort of look at the track then the track is more or less the same. I mean, you maybe will go this way and that way, a little bit sideways, but not really from the major track, at least so far. And I think that's why we are lucky. Because you will hear all this, that's why people don't trust politicians, because politicians would let them down each and every time because they will promise what they will not do. But for the country, this is to some extent a very good thing, because basically we keep moving in the same direction. Of course, this direction, I mean, looks a little bit murky for many obvious reasons that we see in, around the globe, and those changes that are quite unpleasant to reflect on, but basically, I mean, I would always bet that in best case, then they will change nothing. In worst case, maybe there will be some changes, but they will not be dramatic, like nobody will get us out of EU, nobody get us out from NATO, and other things being more or less equal. Oh, you can survive.
Yet. And if we would say that Seimas would be a company, let's say so, it would be a very weird one, because people are not hired by you, right? So you're not choosing your peers. And as well, some of them, they don't optimize for the common goal, but for public visibility and being known. And some of them just want to be re-elected. Some of them don't want to be re-elected. Some of them attend the workshops you make. Some of them don't. So as a former prime minister, how do you choose your leadership style and approach? And what do you at all keep as your leadership principles when you get the audience you have to work with, but you don't really choose?
Well, the parliament is a little bit different than the government, because the government, well, it's not a company, because you come and find most of the people that are working here, and there are limitations to how many people you can choose to come with you, and if you want to change somebody, then it's protected by law and all those things, and of course there are habits, and well, bureaucracy has its own sort of inertia. But when we talk about bureaucracy, I don't think that this is purely governmental thing, because I've seen quite big companies that I would bet are maybe even more bureaucratic than some of the public institutions. So it's just, you know, it just happens. The parliament is a different thing. I mean, you just need to understand what it is. It is just a group of people elected by society that has different expectations, different level of expertise, different level of sort of care about long-term goals. And some people vote because they want to punish somebody. I mean, all sorts of things. So just get this picture as it is. But if it is you who then forms the government, so I could not imagine myself forming a government with some of political parties that exist in Lithuania. But I was lucky, because basically we were people on the same page. That's why we never were in the dramas like we see now. I don't want to delve into that, but I just say that this was in a way an electoral luck, that people were just enough to have this slim majority in the parliament, and we were working 4 years with a very slim majority in the parliament. But the upside of this was that we were not like one thinking about one issue and the other about other issues, and the third about the third issues, and we have nothing in common. I think deeply on the level of values, we were very much like-minded, very much oriented to the same things, and that was actually helped us to do things.
What it's like to be in opposition when you sit and hear the things which make you...
Well, I have a good sense of humor. Sometimes I can. Sometimes when I feel nervous, then I just pinch myself and say, don't, don't overvalue yourself. I mean, this is the picture of how the society sees the politics. So just just do what you think is right, and that's it.
How do you choose your battles? When to actually start actively doing something against the proposal, and when just to laugh from it?
Well, I think that, I have no belief in opposing for the sake of opposing, because it makes no sense. And basically, it is not what happens. Because even if people would say that it seems like everybody's fighting each other in the parliament, because this is the picture that you get from the media, they will never show you the biggest part of the process. And you will see like maybe 10 to 15% of the most sort of maybe juicy debates, maybe budget, maybe something else, partnership law. Things that that make headlines. But this is not the majority. And then when you look through, like historically, statistically, through data, through how the parliament functions, you would see like every parliamentary term, more or less 70 to 85% of the legislation will be adopted with a very wide consensus, meaning that the position will vote and opposition will vote. And you will never read about it, because it's not interesting. It does not make headlines. And what you see is something what makes headlines, and this also, unfortunately, gives the perception to people that there's constantly some infighting going on when just everybody wants to sort of spit somebody into the face and cannot talk to each other. And this is not right, because this is not true.
You were happy or unhappy to have a lot of crises during your cadence. So what was your, mental health mantra during those time of crisis, or you haven't think about that as well? So basically, what made you rational and decent and active during those times?
I would say two things. One thing is people sometimes think that I read only very clever books, so it is not true. But every book that leaves something for you is clever. So in one of the books, there was a lady who had a very good mantra, and that mantra was, "I'll think about it tomorrow." And so when you feel like that everything is going on you, then you have to find that one thing that you actually must think about today. And then all the other things you should push and say, "I will think about it tomorrow." And in very many cases, that tomorrow never comes. Because you just need to see what to cut it. Then the other thing, what is important, and I know this is the price of that leadership in politics at least, is that unfortunately we are getting into reality where most of the things are being very sort of on two extremes. Take COVID, you would have one extreme of people who would say, "Oh, shut down everything, don't let people move," and then the others who would say, "I can die free. You have no authority to tell me what I should do." And then you are the prime minister of those and the others, and you are the government of those and those others. And what do? And for me, this was always like where's the common sense in this? Where is the common sense? Because you understand that nobody will be happy. Very radical people on one side will feel disappointed, and then of course the radical people on the other side will feel disappointed too. And unfortunately, although before we were saying like most of the people are around the center, I would doubt that, because I think with social networks, more and more people sort of are falling into fridges on both sides. And I don't like any extremes, neither on the left nor on the right, nor on one side or on the other of the topic. So you always have to look. Where is the common sense here? You understand that you lose both sides, actually. because nobody will be happy. But then this is the price of having a decision that you believe in. I mean, that makes sense in a way that this is, the common sense that is driving your decision. And it's not easy, because you will be criticized by people who like you, who are basically your, for example, political support in the society. They will criticize you. Fair enough. I will pay this price, but I will never, or I will try at least not to get into decision that I do not believe myself.
Were there any moments during the crisis when you were, I don't know, just wanted to cry it out and say like, oh my God, I don't know what to do?
Well, I think there were many cases like where you feel lost, and the most complicated for me was that, I mean, I buy that people don't trust or don't want to trust politicians. But when you see that, I mean, there is no authority. Let's take COVID. You have people from science, they will not be trusted. And this is so complicated, where you understand that it's not you that part of society will not believe, but it's people who are doctors, professors, I mean, who have all the titles in the world. They are saying things that are not political. And people would still don't think about it, because they can make their own research. They would find some idiot on YouTube who will have a completely opposite truth. And then this will become part of your agenda. And in cases like that, I mean, you just sometimes want to scream, because it's like, I mean, what can I do about it? How can I at least try to persuade people who do not want to listen to me? And you've seen cases of that quite visibly, and they were manifested in quite many cases. And this is the environment where you have to navigate. And of course, sometimes that takes a toll in terms of your mental steadiness. And I mean, people were saying sometimes that you look angry. I mean, it's not that I'm angry, I'm desperate. So you could see that basically at least on some of my performances answering the press or saying something. And it's not because I'm angry. I just feel desperate at some point that I cannot sort of get through this, this bone in your head and somehow deliver my message. I don't want, I mean, I don't ask you to believe me, but at least I ask you to listen for a second, and then maybe we can discuss that further.
My first choice was my education is actually in politics. And then I went to my first internship in one of the ministries, and after that I said, thank you, I'm done. They're not paying neither enough money for this. You don't really get lots of credit. All the people have opinion on what you do, and the toughest thing which hit me that I cannot, like really alone, I cannot quickly change anything there. And that most probably was the killer. What's your why? Why you do that?
Well, I had several cases where I was about to leave the public service. And every time where I was one leg behind the door, I was getting back and thinking, no, I mean, it's so interesting. You see all these fairs, especially given that my background is basically the Ministry of Finance, where you see everything from like EU accession, from agriculture to nuclear energy. I mean, where can you actually get so much knowledge about so many things that are going on in your country? Where do you work that you care about? What's the demography, and what is the volume of exports last month, and what are the major markets do they move? And this sort of stuff. I mean, it's you are not so very much deep in things, but you are on a very wide scale, and I think this is something that drives me. But basically, I mean, I'm 50 years old. For 15 years of my life, I lived under occupation. The fact that my country was reborn for me was a complete magic. I don't care about my birthday. 11th of March is something that is, is the day for me. And it's not like, like I'm saying that because it's, I feel it. I feel it, I remember it. I know that times were very complicated. I was a kid, a teenager, still too young to realize the hardship. But then I decided that I will study economics. Although all the people were saying, well, what economics? You should go to be medical doctor or like physics or mathematics, because I was decently good in quite many things at school. So, but I said, no, I want this economics. There was very pragmatic reason, because under Soviet occupation there were no jeans, no tape recorders, no music, no nothing. I wanted like to have it all, But that was also an idea, this idea of another country, and I wanted to be part of it. And my God, I would never have thought that I will be such a part of it if you take me like 35 years ago.
How do you recharge then?
No extreme sports whatsoever. Gardening, puzzles.
Don't you have enough of puzzles at work?
Well, one good thing about the residence of Prime Minister was that there was like 600 square meters in that house, so there were plenty of floors to assemble puzzles. I like something slow. Because not like where you have to concentrate, because if you don't concentrate, you're gonna die. So no, that does not give me sort of a relief. I need something slow, and then the slow I can just sit and stare, and that's also
not to think about work.
Yes, just have my head empty, Nordic walking, things that just leaves you with cleaner head. But gardening is the best. I was grown up in Vilnius. I had no village, no grandmas, grandpas with, things with potatoes and stuff that you had to cultivate. So I completely hated that. It was never my piece of cake. But when I was a Minister of Finance, and already times were tough, and was the situation when you have to hurt people who for some reason become Keynesian economists, all of them, like 3 million. But you have to hurt them because for this better good of this financial stability of the country. So, it was quite complicated. And then one day I realized that when I dig the hole in this land plot, somehow it goes away. And then I realized that I must have some gene of a farmer somewhere, very hidden, deeply hidden, but
do you have a thought how you dig that hole for someone?
No, never. No, never. I think two things are completely worthless in life. It's hatred, and jealousy. Because this is something that just burns your energy. You just burn on it, and you have nothing. You get absolutely nothing in return. So this is something when people ask me, do you hate those people who ask you stupid questions in the parliament, who show this misogyny and everything? And hate, no. Why? Because it's their problem. It's not my problem. If I would spend time hating them, then it would take so much of my time just for nothing. So never thought about that. Well, I would dig a grave for Putin, though, gladly.
you look too decent, you know, and too healthy for the role you're taking. What were the moments or qualities? What formed you in life? The way you are today, which helps you to stay so focused.
I don't know. I think at some point, but that was very long ago. I was not in politics then, definitely. That was long ago. When you look at people who struggle, you know, they choose a role and they struggle because you always have to think, do I fit in that script? Where's my role, you know? And I mean, I felt such a pity and waste of time, like to writing down a script and then trying to follow it, and you know that there will be a moment that you will just screw it up. Because you cannot sort of all the time live in this frustration thinking, how do I look, how do I look? And do I still fit in my image or something? And then I decided that, I mean, it's not worth it. Just live life and, you know, live and let live. And whatever comes. I mean, whatever comes. And I know that there are people who hate me for this. I know that there are people who like me for this. And I'm fine with that.
Do you like yourself?
This is a tough question. I'm saying that, you know, what gives you comfort in life is when you prepare yourself for sleep, you come to your bathroom, you wash your face, and you look at the mirror. And if at some point I would be looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, I hate you, then that would be really very complicated. But so far, I was lucky not to feel this. So, I mean, I'm kind of like myself.
And with that question, I will ask to put two more chairs and ask Thomas and Inga and Dovile join us back.
Mes gal tilpsim?
Ne, tuoj atvežim. Yep. So if we can put Slido back for, so now we have few very lightning round questions. So you can ask those questions if you are interested. I told all the leaders that the rule is to answer in one question. Okay, let's start with a simple question. One book you recommend?
I think it's clear for you, Ingrida.
No.
Dovile, you used your sentence.
Well, there will be at least 5, so... And, I mean, read what you like, basically, because don't struggle with recommended books. Because I've been recommended to read books that I couldn't finish, and I just left it. And I think this is a way, I mean, everybody should have their own relation to things they do.
Thomas?
A book called Moral Ambition. I'll bring a couple of them. But my main advice would be read summaries. It saves a lot of time.
I don't have one book, but at a certain point in time, a book, The Happiness Hypothesis, it's by Haidt, really helped me figure out my path in life. But I have many.
But I fought for a while because I had time. But this is, I think, country-specific. This is country-specific. At least if you think about the book that changed my attitude to something quite dramatically, that was The Bloodlines by Timothy Snyder. I think every person who lives in this country should know what happened to Lithuanian Jews. And I think this is a must for all of us.
When you want to retire?
From what I do now, and I don't even know whether I can figure out what I do, but from like me being a lawyer, more or less full time. I think at like 60 maybe, but I would like to go on longer doing other things. I have so many ideas.
So far, all of you are very good in keeping the rule of one sentence. Thank you for that.
Well, retiring from all activities, I don't know. Retiring from politics and going to academia, for example, maybe soon.
From this job, I will retire if I'm not doing a good job. So if somebody else can do it better. But I will not stop working because I think I'll get bored. I'll get some trouble to get into.
What true leaders should never do?
Can you say it again?
True leaders never do. What is that?
Should never do.
Humiliate people.
Yeah, that's a good one. Hurt and humiliate people. Yeah, I think that is just, anything that you don't want to be put upon yourself, don't do that to others. And you can take some pain, but don't do things to other people that you don't want to be done to yourself.
Yeah, I would agree. A person who would take credit for everything that is going on well and will blame everybody else but not himself for everything that is not going that well is not a leader.
Yes.
People who speak louder are more likely to become the leaders.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you don't speak up, you will not be heard, right? So I think there's some truth in that. But not all loud-speaking people will become leaders. So that's, I think, the algorithm.
I agree with that. I think maybe adding that the most important thing is to speak. And then even if you speak quietly, you can make yourself heard. But
I cannot skip this question for Ingrida. If it were true that you stole pension money, where would you have spent them?
Ooh.
That's a good question, and I will tell the other joke, because when I was a prime minister, there was a rumor on some underground platform that I was leaking the treasury of the country to Poland, and this is exactly why I've cancelled my bodyguards on weekends and free time, because I want to carry the treasury to the Poland. And then I was saying, why people think I'm so stupid? With 4 boys and 2 cars, we would have taken so much more of the money to Poland. So. Let's leave it in the category of bad anecdotes.
What scares you?
What scared me? I think it scared me with that COVID time, when we didn't know if money would ever come back and if we would ever continue. That was scary. But there are many scary moments. I'm scared a lot. But I think that was business-wise the scariest thing, and then personally, like anything that is related to the health of the people that I love.
I've mentioned already, and this is a sort of general fear when I think about where the societies are going. I really feel scared by the fact that people tend not to trust anyone in any particular field of competence, and I think this is really scary, because what this Idiocracy, film is unfortunately a very telling one, although done as a satire. I think we might see quite many things happening, and then. We'll see where that will get us.
But like, just a question then for me. But like, don't you have like that scares a bit, but it also kind of just activates more. Like, don't you have that? I mean, it scares, but it's almost activating that you see that that's happening, right? It motivates
because I have much to lose if this rule-based world order, that liberal democracy that I very deeply believe in, will fall apart. Yes?
Yeah, exactly. It's very motivating in a way.
I think in general, being scared or fearing something drives us. So like the alternative that other people might have it their way, But on the personal level, I'm mostly scared for the others, for like family, friends, colleagues. I sometimes reflect and I think, okay, I've actually had quite a nice life. I had quite a good, experience. I'm not so scared for myself. And actually ask that question of myself very often when I think about like geopolitics and what could happen. And I would actually be really, really free if I was only caring for myself. So for me, the biggest fear is for the others. And that is kind of making me a bit uncomfortable and stressed when I think about it.
You have to hire a person for the very important position in your organization. During the interview, you have only one question to ask. What is the question?
In current environment, that would be, is 2 + 2 4?
Yeah, or like
that was not serious.
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty good one, actually.
I was trying to break an ice.
I think we need to keep it to basics. Like, can you count? Is Putin evil? Would it be a good one?
I have a similar one, but it's a bit more lawyerish, sophisticated. So I actually do ask that. I ask people to say things that they absolutely do not want to find in the organization and the things that they have to find in order to decide to be there. So like 2 values that they like and 2 values that they don't. And I actually ask that question.
So the question I usually ask is about how they dealt with a very hard situation. So that is usually, explain to me in detail a hard situation you were in and how you solved it, like the difficult situation. And then you usually see character.
I asked because actually there were such a case, one friend told me, and all the interview was for 1 hour, and the single question was, tell us anything you want about yourself. And you had 1 hour to speak.
You have to be talkative.
But that's a very good question, because usually people tend to tell the most important things quite unconsciously, as a matter of fact, when you give them a...
But that's like the first question in every interview. Depends when you stop, yeah.
So closing up this day, what is your, I don't know, to all aspiring leaders, what would be 3 things you would wish them, tell them, I don't know, share your wisdom?
Don't weigh things too much in advance. I mean, I think aspiring leader already has ambition, has a goal, ideology, whatever, that's aspiring definition. So I would say don't weigh everything too much in advance. You have to just start acting.
Well, I think this speak up thing was very important, because in so many cases people just don't dare to take on the responsibility, because they don't think, they think, will I be perfect? Will I cope? Will I do that very well? I mean, if you have the slightest belief that you can do it, just do it. Because, I mean, don't think that I will be a leader. I mean, don't think about that leadership. I've never read any leadership book, as a matter of fact. I don't know what they write about, but it's more about the how you feel your responsibility to act. Because so many people don't speak up, don't dare to do something, and then they think, I could have done it, I should have done it, but sometimes it's too late. Sometimes not, but sometimes it's too late. So dare, do it if you think you can. I mean, if it's a failure, then you will say thank you, and you will not sort of torture the others with your leadership, but you should dare. Then first things first. I mean, important things first, and then not important things later, or never, and never let down people. Never do something that you cannot look in the mirror and you say, I've stabbed somebody in the back because, I mean, that was much more comfortable for me Don't do that. Never pays off.
I would say be honest and be comfortably honest about things. Try to be useful to others in what you do, and believe in the kindness and the goodwill of others. I think those three things. Yeah, believe in others, that they're kind and good-willing. Try to be yourself, useful and helpful to others, and be honest about it.
A round of applause for all our speakers. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.